Well, welcome everyone. Today is June 18th, 2022, and I want to welcome you to this study, this Bible Hour 1. And we're going to specifically look into the book of Job today. For a change of pace, we're going to look into the wisdom literature of the writings. And we've been focusing rather heavily on some of the other genres of literature scripturally, but we have not taken a really close look at some of the wisdom literature other than Proverbs. So I wanted to take a different direction, start looking to that today. And I say start because I actually want to do two or three sessions on the book of Job. It's not easy material, and we're not going to go through it regrettably verse by verse. There's just no way to do that. But I want to take themes, and I want to take it sort of in chunks or sections and just kind of look at some of the main ideas and principles. And today we'll start that with primarily a reading. I'll have some commentary, but I want to just focus mainly on just the reading because it's very rich poetry. And I want us just to get the full impact of that. And it's not the whole book. There's no way we can get through Job's 42 chapters in just one sitting. It'll take us about an hour and 3/4 to get through it. But we can at least go through the first 20 chapters, roughly half the book, just to get started. And then I want to give you some general themes, thoughts, but I won't go too deeply into that today. Number one, because we won't have time, because I want to stay more in the spirit of a Bible Hour 1. But also because I want to read the whole book before we start really going in depth into any of those themes and principles. So Yahweh willing, we're gonna continue next week, and I'll just let you know that ahead of time. We will continue next week with part 2 of the book of Job, but it'll be a formal study, and probably almost certainly it'll go for at least 2 hours next week, and then we'll probably even do a third session, at least a third session. So we're gonna focus for the next 3 weeks at least, including today, on the book of Job, and get as much of that as we can out of that. And I hope that's going to be as enriching for you as it has been for me. Remember that when I'm doing these things, I always reiterate what Chuck Swindoll said. I look for what I need to hear, and then I let you listen along, right? So I'm learning a lot as I'm going in depth into the book of Job. And I hope that will be beneficial for you as well. So without further ado, I'll ask you to, and by the way, I also want today, I want to give you just a little report of the event that Saida and I attended with NT Wright. So I'll leave a few minutes to do that as well. So without further ado, let's go over to Job chapter 1, and we're just going to read through the first 20 chapters. I'll ask you to get your drink of preference, your beverage of preference, have it handy, pull up a comfortable chair, and a listening ear, and really just try to absorb the first 20 chapters of the book of Job. And I'll be reading in the NRSV version today. Job chapter 1. There was once a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. That man was blameless and upright, one who feared Elohim and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. His sons used to go and hold feasts in one another's houses in turn, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the feast days had run their course, Job would send and sanctify them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed Elohim in their hearts." This is what Job always did. One day, the heavenly beings came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan also came among them. Yahweh said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered Yahweh, "From going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it." Yahweh said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There's no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears Elohim and turns away from evil. Then Satan answered Yahweh, does Job fear Elohim for nothing? Have you not put a fence around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You've blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand now and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. Yahweh said to Satan, very well, all that he has is in your power, only do not stretch out your hand against him. So Satan went out from the presence of Yahweh. One day, when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell on them and carried them off and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, the fire of Elohim fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 columns, made a raid on the camels and carried them off and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And suddenly a great wind came across the desert, struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead. I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job arose and tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell on the ground and worshiped. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. Yahweh gave, and Yahweh has taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahweh. In all this, Job did not sin or charge Elohim with wrongdoing. Job 2. One day the heavenly beings came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan also came among them to present himself before Yahweh. Yahweh said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered Yahweh, from going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it. Yahweh said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There's no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears Elohim and turns away from evil. He still persists in his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him for no reason. Then Satan answered Yahweh, skin for skin. All that people have, they will give to save their lives. But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. Yahweh said to Satan, very well, he is in your power, only spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of Yahweh and inflicted loathsome sores on Job from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Job took a potsherd with which to scrape himself and sat among the ashes. Then his wife said to him, do you still persist in your integrity? Curse Elohim and die. But he said to her, you speak as any foolish woman would speak. Shall we receive the good at the hand of Elohim and not receive the bad? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all these troubles that had come upon him, each of them set out from his home, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They met together to go and console and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him, and they raised their voices and wept aloud. They tore their robes, threw dust in the air upon their heads. They sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. Job 3. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. Job said, let the day perish in which I was born, and the night that said a man-child is conceived. Let that day be darkness. May Elohim above not seek it, or light shine on it. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it. Let clouds settle upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. That night, let thick darkness seize it. Let it not rejoice among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Yes, let that night be barren. Let no joyful cry be heard in it. Let those curse it who curse the sea, those who are skilled to rouse up Leviathan. Let the stars of its dawn be dark. Let it hope for light, but have none. May it not see the eyelids of the morning, because it did not shut the doors of my mother's womb and hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not die at birth, come forth from the womb and expire? Why were there knees to receive me or breasts for me to suck? Now I would be lying down in quiet. I would be asleep. Then I would be at rest with kings and counselors of the earth who rebuild ruins for themselves, or with princes who have gold, who fill their houses with silver. Or why was I not buried like a stillborn child, like an infant that never sees the light? There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There the prisoners are at ease together. They do not hear the voice of the taskmaster. The small and the great are there, and the slaves are free from their masters. Why is light given to one in misery, and life to the bitter in soul, who long for death, but it does not come, and dig for it more than for hidden treasures, who rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they find the grave? Why is light given to one who cannot see the way, whom Elohim has fenced in? For my sighing comes like my bread, and my groanings are poured out like water. Truly, the thing that I fear comes upon me, and what I dread befalls me. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, but trouble comes. Job 4. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered, if one ventures a word with you, will you be offended? But who can keep from speaking? See, you have instructed many. You have strengthened the weak hands. Your words have supported those who were stumbling, and you have made firm the feeble knees. But now it has come to you, and you're impatient. It touches you, and you are dismayed. Is not your fear of Elohim your confidence in the integrity of your ways, your hope? Think now, who that was innocent ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? As I have seen those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the breath of Elohim they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, and the whelps of the lioness are scattered. Now a word came stealing to me. My ear received the whisper of it. Amid thoughts from visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on mortals, dread came upon me and trembling, which made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face. The hair of my flesh bristled. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice. Can mortals be righteous before Elohim? Can human beings be pure before their maker? Even in his servants he puts no trust. In his angels he charges with error. How much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed like a moth. Between morning and evening they are destroyed. They perish forever without any regarding it. Their tent cord is plucked up within them, and they die devoid of wisdom. Chapter 5. Call now. Is there anyone who will answer you? To which of the holy ones will you turn? Surely vexation kills the fool, and jealousy slays the simple. I've seen fools taking root, but suddenly I curse their dwelling. Their children are far from safety. They are crushed in the gate, and there is no one to deliver them. The hungry eat their harvest, and they take it even out of the thorns, and the thirsty pant after their wealth. For misery does not come from the earth, nor does trouble sprout from the ground, but human beings are born to trouble. They're born to trouble, just as sparks fly upward. As for me, I would seek Elohim, and to Elohim I would commit my cause. He does great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. He gives rain on the earth and sends water on the fields. He sets on high those who are lowly, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He frustrates the devices of the crafty so that their hands achieve no success. He takes the wise in their own craftiness, and the schemes of the wily are brought to a quick end. They meet with darkness in the daytime and grope at noonday as in the night. But he saves the needy from the sword of their mouth, from the hand of the mighty. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts his mouth. How happy is the one whom Elohim reproves. Therefore, do not despise the discipline of the Almighty, for he wounds, but he binds up. He strikes, but his hands heal. He will deliver you from 6 troubles. In 7, no harm shall touch you. In famine, he will redeem you from death, and in war, from the power of the sword. You shall be hidden from the scourge of the tongue, and shall not fear destruction when it comes. At destruction and famine, you shall laugh, and shall not fear the wild animals of the earth. For you shall be in league with the stones of the field, and the wild animals shall be at peace with you. You shall know that your tent is safe. You shall inspect your fold and miss nothing. You shall know that your descendants will be many, and your offspring like the grass of the earth. You shall come into your grave in ripe old age, as a shock of grain comes up to the threshing floor in its season. See, we have searched this out. It is true. Hear and know it for yourself. Then Job answered, oh, that my vexation were weighed and all my calamity laid in the balances, for then it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words have been rash. For the arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks their poison. The terrors of Elohim are arrayed against me. Does the wild ass bray over its grass, or the ox low over its fodder? Can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt? Or is there any flavor in the juice of mallows? My appetite refuses to touch them. They're like food that is loathsome to me. Oh, that I might have my request, and that Elohim would grant my desire, that it would please Elohim to crush me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. This would be my consolation. I would even exult in unrelenting pain, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One. What is my strength that I should wait? And what is my end that I should be patient? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh bronze? In truth, I have no help in me, and any resource is driven from me. Those who withhold kindness from a friend forsake the fear of the Almighty. My companions are treacherous like a torrent bed, like freshets that pass away, that run dark with ice, turbid with melting snow. In time of heat, they disappear. When it is hot, they vanish from their place. The caravans turn aside from their course. They go up into the waste and perish. The caravans of Tema look. The travelers of Sheba hope. They are disappointed because they were confident. They come there and are confounded. Such you have now become to me. You see my calamity and are afraid. Have I said, make me a gift, or from your wealth offer a bribe for me, or save me from an opponent's hand, or ransom me from the hand of oppressors? Teach me and I will be silent. Make me understand how I've gone wrong. How forceful are honest words, but your reproof, what does it reprove? Do you think that you can reprove words as if the speech of the desperate were wind? You would even cast lots over the orphan and bargain over your friend. But now be pleased to look at me, for I will not lie to your face. Turn, I pray, let no wrong be done. Turn now, my vindication is at stake. Is there any wrong in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern calamity? Do not human beings have a hard service on earth, and are not their days like the days of a laborer? Like a slave who longs for the shadow, and like laborers who look for their wages? So I am allotted months of emptiness, and nights of misery are apportioned to me. When I lie down, I say, when shall I rise? But the night is long, and I'm full of tossing until dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and dirt. My skin hardens, then breaks out again. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and come to their end without hope. Remember that my life is a breath. My eye will never again see good. The eye that beholds me will see me no more. While your eyes are upon me, I shall be gone. As the cloud fades and vanishes, so those who go down to Sheol do not come up. They return no more to their houses, nor do their places know them anymore. Therefore, I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I the sea or the dragon that you set a guard over me? When I say my bed will comfort me, my couch will ease my complaint, then you scare me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I would choose strangling and death rather than this body. I loathe my life. I would not live forever. Let me alone, for my days are a breath. What are human beings that you make so much of them, that you set your mind on them, visit them every morning, test them every moment? Would you not look at me, away from me for a while? Let me alone until I swallow my spittle. If I sin, what do I do to you, you watcher of humanity? Why have you made me your target? Why have I become a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? For now I shall lie in the earth. You will seek me, but I shall not be. Job 8. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered, how long will you say these things, and the words of your mouth be a great wind? Does Elohim pervert justice? Or does the Almighty pervert the right? If your children sinned against him, he delivered them into the power of their transgression. If you will seek Elohim and make supplication to the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, surely then he will rouse himself for you and restore you to your rightful place. Though your beginning was small, your latter days will be very great. For inquire now of bygone generations. Consider what their ancestors have found. For we are but of yesterday, and we know nothing. For our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not teach you and tell you and utter words out of their understanding? Can papyrus grow where there's no marsh? Can reeds flourish where there is no water? While yet in flower and not cut down, they wither before any other plant. Such are the paths of all who forget Elohim. The hope of the wicked shall perish. Their confidence is gossamer, a spider's house their trust. If one leans against his house, it will not stand. If one lays hold of it, it will not endure. The wicked thrive before the sun, and their shoots spread over the garden. Their roots twine around the stone heap. They live among the rocks. If they are destroyed from their place, then it will deny them, saying, I've never seen you. See, these are their happy ways, that out of the earth still others will spring. See, Elohim will not reject a blameless person, nor take the hand of evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the tent of the wicked will be no more. Job 9. Then Job answered, indeed, I know that this is so, but how can a mortal be just before Elohim? If one wished to contend with him, one could not answer him once in 1,000. He's wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has resisted him and succeeded? He who removes mountains and they do not know it, when he overturns them in his anger, who shakes the earth out of its place and its pillars tremble, who commands the sun and it does not rise, who seals up the stars, who alone stretched out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea, who made the bear and Orion, the Pleiades and the chambers of the south, who does great things beyond understanding and marvelous things without number. Look, he passes by me and I do not see him. He moves on, but I do not perceive him. He snatches away. Who can stop him? Who will say to him, what are you doing? Elohim will not turn back his anger. The helpers of Rahab bowed beneath him. How then can I answer him, choosing my words with him? Though I am innocent, I cannot answer him. I must appeal for mercy to my accuser. If I summoned him and he answered me, I do not believe that he would listen to my voice, for he crushes me with a tempest and multiplies my wounds without cause. He will not let me get my breath, but fills me with bitterness. If it is a contest of strength, he is the strong one. If this is a matter of justice, who can summon him? Though I am innocent, my own mouth would condemn me. Though I am blameless, he would prove me perverse. I am blameless. I do not know myself. I loathe my life. It is all one. Therefore, I say he destroys both the blameless and the wicked. When disaster brings sudden death, he mocks at the calamity of the innocent. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the eyes of its judges. If it is not he, who then is it? My days are swifter than a runner. They flee away. They see no good. They go by like skips of reed, like an eagle swooping on the prey. If I say, I will forget my complaint, I will put off my sad countenance and be of good cheer, I become afraid of all my suffering, for I know you will not hold me innocent. I shall be condemned. Why then do I labor in vain? If I wash myself with soap and cleanse my hands with lye, yet you will plunge me into filth, and my own clothes will abhor me. For he is not immortal as I am, that I might answer him, that we should come to trial together. There's no umpire between us who might lay his hand on us both. If he would take his rod away from me and not let dread of him terrify me, then I would speak without fear of him. For I know I am not what I am thought to be. I loathe my life. I'll give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to Elohim, do not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Does it seem good to you to oppress, to despise the work of your hands and favor the schemes of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as humans see? Are your days like the days of mortals, or your years like human years, that you seek out my iniquity and search for my sin? Although you know that I'm not guilty and there's no one to deliver out of your hand. Your hands fashioned and made me, and now you turn and destroy me. Remember that you fashioned me like clay, and will you turn me to dust again? Do you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you hid in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me and do not acquit me of my iniquity. If I'm wicked, woe to me. If I'm righteous, I cannot lift up my head, but I'm filled with disgrace and look upon my affliction. Bold as a lion, you hunt me. You repeat your exploits against me. You renew your witnesses against me and increase your vexation toward me. You bring fresh troops against me. Why did you bring me forth from the womb? Would that I had died before any eye had seen me, and were as though I had not been carried from the womb to the grave. Are not the days of my life few? Let me alone, that I may find a little comfort before I go, never to return to the land of gloom and deep darkness, the land of gloom and chaos, where light is like darkness. Job 11. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered, should a multitude of words go unanswered, and should one full of talk be vindicated? Should your babble put others to silence, and when you mock, should no one shame you? For you say, my conduct is pure, and I'm clean in Elohim's sight. But oh, that Elohim would speak and open his lips to you, and that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for wisdom is many-sided. Know then that Elohim exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. Can you find out the deep things of Elohim? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? It is higher than heaven. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. If he passes through and imprisons and assembles for judgment, who can hinder him? For he knows those who are worthless. When he sees iniquity, will he not consider it? But a stupid person will get understanding when a wild ass is born human. If you direct your heart rightly, you will stretch out your hands toward him. If iniquity is in your hand, put it far away. Do not let wickedness reside in your tents. Surely then you lift up your face without blemish, you will be secure and will not fear. You will forget your misery. You will remember it as waters that have passed away, and your life will be brighter than the noonday. Its darkness will be like the morning, and you'll have confidence because there's hope. You'll be protected and take your rest in safety. You will lie down and no one will make you afraid. Many will entreat your favor, but the eyes of the wicked will fail. All way of escape will be lost to them, and their hope is to breathe their last. Chapter 12. Then Job answered, no doubt you are the people, and wisdom will die with you. But I have understanding as well as you. I'm not inferior to you. Who does not know such things as these? I'm a laughingstock to my friends. I, who called upon Elohim, and he answered me, a just and blameless man. I am a laughingstock. Those at ease have contempt for misfortune, but is ready for those whose feet are unstable. The tents of robbers are at peace, and those who provoke Elohim are secure, who bring their idol in their hands. But ask the animals, and they will teach you. The birds of the air, and they will tell you. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you. And the fish of the sea will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of Yahweh has done this? In his hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of every human being. Does not the ear test words as the palate tastes food? Is wisdom with the aged and understanding in length of days? With Elohim are wisdom and strength. He has counsel and understanding. If he tears down, no one can rebuild. If he shuts someone in, no one can open up. If he withholds the waters, they dry up. If he sends them out, they overwhelm the land. With him are strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. He leads counselors away stripped and makes fools of judges. He looses the sash of kings and binds a waistcloth on their loins. He leads priests away stripped and overthrows the mighty. He deprives of speech those who are trusted and takes away the discernment of the elders. He pours contempt on princes and looses the belt of the strong. He uncovers the deeps out of darkness and brings deep darkness to light. He makes nations great, then destroys them. He enlarges nations, then leads them away. He strips understanding from the leaders of the earth and makes them wander in a pathless waste. They grope in the dark without light. He makes them stagger like a drunkard. Look, my eye has seen all this. My ear has heard and understood it. What you know, I also know. I'm not inferior to you. But I would speak to the Almighty, and I desire to argue my case with Elohim. As for you, you whitewash with lies. All of you are worthless physicians. If you would only keep silent, that would be your wisdom. Hear now my reasoning, and listen to the pleadings of my lips. Will you speak falsely for Elohim and speak deceitfully for him? Will you show partiality toward him? Will you plead the case for Elohim? Will it be well with you when he searches you out? Or can you deceive him as one person deceives another? He will surely rebuke you if in secret you show partiality. Will not his majesty terrify you and the dread of him fall upon you? Your maxims are proverbs of ashes. Your defenses are defenses of clay. Let me have silence and I will speak, and let come on me what may. I'll take my flesh in my teeth and put my life in my hand. See, he will kill me. I have no hope, but I will defend my ways to his face. This will be my salvation, that the wicked shall not come before him. Listen carefully to my words, and let my declaration be in your ears. I have indeed prepared my case. I know that I shall be vindicated. Who is there that will contend with me? For then I will be silent and die. Only grant two things to me, then I will not hide myself from your face. Withdraw your hand far from me, and do not let dread of you terrify me. Then call, and I will answer, or let me speak, and you reply to me. How many are my iniquities and my sins? Make me know my transgression and my sin. Why do you hide your face and count me as your enemy? Will you frighten a windblown leaf and pursue dry chaff? For you write bitter things against me and make me reap the iniquities of my youth. You put my feet in the stocks and watch all my paths. You set a bound to the soles of my feet, one who wastes away like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten. Chapter 14. A mortal, born of woman, few of days and full of trouble, comes up like a flower and withers, flees like a shadow and does not last. Do you fix your eyes on such a one? Do you bring me into judgment with you? Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? No one can. Since their days are determined and the number of their months is known to you, and you have appointed the bounds that they cannot pass, look away from them and desist, that they may enjoy like laborers their days. But there's hope for a tree. If it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its shoots will not cease. Though its root grows old in the earth, and its stump dies in the ground, yet at the scent of water it will bud and put forth branches like a young plant. But mortals die and are laid low. Humans expire, and where are they? As waters fail from a lake and a river wastes away and dries up, so mortals lie down and do not rise again until the heavens are no more. They will not awake or be roused out of their sleep. Oh, that you would hide me in Sheol, that you would conceal me until your wrath is past, that you would appoint me a set time and remember me. If mortals die, will they live again? All the days of my service, I would wait until my release should come. You would call and I would answer you. You would long for the work of your hands. For then you would not number my steps. You would not keep watch over my sin. My transgression would be sealed up in a bag, and you would cover over my iniquity. But the mountain falls and crumbles away, and the rock is removed from its place. The waters wear away the stones. The torrents wash away the soil of the earth. So you destroy the hope of mortals. You prevail forever against them, and they pass away. You change their countenance and send them away. Their children come to honor, and they do not know it. They are brought low, and it goes unnoticed. They feel only the pain of their own bodies and mourn only for themselves. Job 15. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered, should the wise answer with windy knowledge and fill themselves with the east wind? Should they argue in unprofitable talk or in words with which they can do no good? But you are doing away with the fear of Elohim and hindering meditation before Elohim. For your iniquity teaches your mouth, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. Your own mouth condemns you and not I. Your own lips testify against you. Are you the firstborn of the human race? Were you brought forth before the hills? Have you listened in the counsel of Elohim? And do you limit wisdom to yourself? What do you know that we do not know? What do you understand that is not clear to us? The gray haired and the aged are on our side, those older than your father. Are the consolations of Elohim too small for you, or the word that deals gently with you? Why does your heart carry you away? And why do your eyes flash so that you turn your spirit against Elohim? And let such words go out of your mouth. What immortals that they could be clean, or those born of woman that they could be righteous? Elohim puts no trust even in his holy ones, and the heavens are not clean in his sight. How much less one who is abominable and corrupt, or who drinks iniquity like water? I will show you, listen to me. What I have seen, I will declare. What sages have told and their ancestors have not hidden, to whom alone the land was given, and no stranger passed among them. The wicked writhe in pain all their days, through all the years that are laid up for the ruthless. Terrifying sounds are in their ears. In prosperity, the destroyer will come upon them. They despair of returning from darkness, and they are destined for the sword. They wander abroad for bread, saying, where is it? They know that a day of darkness is ready at hand. Distress and anguish terrify them. They prevail against them like a king prepared for battle, because they stretched out their hands against Elohim and bid defiance to the Almighty, running stubbornly against him with a thick boss shield, because they have covered their faces with their fat and gathered fat upon their loins. They will live in desolate cities and houses that no one should inhabit, houses destined to become heaps of ruins. They'll not be rich, and their wealth will not endure. Nor will they strike root in the earth. They will not escape from darkness. The flame will dry up their shoots, and their blossom will be swept away by the wind. Let them not trust in emptiness, deceiving themselves, for emptiness will be their recompense. It will be paid in full before their time, and their branch will not be green. It will shake off their unripe grape like the vine, and cast off their blossoms like the olive tree. For the company of the wicked is barren, and fire consumes the tents of bribery. They conceive mischief and bring forth evil, and their heart prepares deceit. Job 16. Then Job answered, I've heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Have windy words no limit? Or what provokes you that you keep on talking? I also could talk as you do. If you were in my place, I could join words together against you and shake my head at you. I would encourage you with my mouth, and the solace of my lips would assuage your pain. If I speak, my pain is not assuaged. And if I forbear, how much of it leaves me? Surely now Elohim has worn me out. He has made desolate all my companies, and he has shriveled me up, which is a witness against me. My leanness has risen up against me, and it testifies to my face. He has torn me in his wrath and hated me. He has gnashed his teeth at me. My adversary sharpens his eyes against me. They have gaped at me with their mouths. They have struck me insolently at the cheek. They massed themselves together against me. Elohim gives me up to the wicked and casts me into the hands of the wicked. I was at ease, and he broke me in two. He seized me by the neck and dashed me to pieces. He set me up as his target. His archers surround me. He slashes open my kidneys and shows no mercy. He pours my gall on the ground. He bursts upon me again and again. He rushes at me like a warrior. I have sewed sackcloth upon my skin, and have laid my strength in the dust. My face is red with weeping, and deep darkness is on my eyelids, though there is no violence in my hands, and my prayer is pure. O earth, do not cover my blood. Let my outcry find no resting place. Even now, in fact, my witness is in heaven, and he that vouches for me is on high. My friends scorn me. My eye pours out tears to Elohim, that he would maintain the right of a mortal with Elohim as one does for a neighbor. For when a few years have come, I shall go the way from which I shall not return. My spirit is broken. My days, this is chapter 17. My spirit is broken. My days are extinct. The grave is ready for me. Surely there are mockers around me, and my eye dwells on their provocation. Lay down a pledge for me with yourself. Who is there that will give surety for me? Since you have closed their minds to understanding, therefore you will not let them triumph. Those who denounce friends for reward, the eyes of their children will fail. He has made me a byword of the peoples. I am one before whom people spit. My eye has grown dim from grief, and all my members are like a shadow. The upright are appalled at this, and the innocent stir themselves up against the wicked. Yet the righteous hold to their way, and they that have clean hands grow stronger and stronger. But you come back now, all of you, and I shall not find a sensible person among you. My days are past, my plans are broken off, the desires of my heart. They make night into day. The light, they say, is near to the darkness. If I look for Sheol as my house, if I spread my couch in darkness, if I say to the pit, you are my father, and to the worm, my mother or my sister, where then is my hope? Who will see my hope? Will it go down to the bars of Sheol? Shall we descend together into the dust? Chapter 18. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered, how long will you hunt for words? Consider, and then we shall speak. Why are we counted as cattle? Why are we stupid in your sight? You who tear yourself in your anger, shall the earth be forsaken because of you, or the rock be removed out of its place? Surely the light of the wicked is put out, and the flame of their fire does not shine. The light is dark in their tent, and the lamp above them is put out. Their strong steps are shortened, and their own schemes throw them out. For they are thrust into a net by their own feet, and they walk into a pitfall. A trap seizes them by the heel. A snare lays hold of them. A rope is hid for them in the ground, a trap for them in the path. Terror frightens them on every side and chase them at their heels. Their strength is consumed by hunger, and calamity is ready for their stumbling. By disease, their skin is consumed. The firstborn of death consumes their limbs. They are torn from the tent in which they trusted and are brought to the king of terrors. In their tent, nothing remains. Sulfur is scattered upon their habitations. Their roots dry up beneath, and their branches wither above. Their memory perishes from the earth, and they have no name in the street. They are thrust from light into darkness and driven out of the world. They have no offspring or descendant among their people, and no survivor where they used to live. They of the West are appalled at their fate, and horror seizes those of the East. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked. Such is the place of those who do not know Elohim. Chapter 19. Then Job answered, how long will you torment me and break me in pieces with words? These 10 times you have cast reproach upon me. Are you not ashamed to wrong me? And even if it is true that I have erred, my error remains with me. If indeed you magnify yourselves against me and make my humiliation an argument against me, know then that Elohim has put me in the wrong and closed his net around me. Even when I cry out violence, I'm not answered. I call aloud, but there's no justice. He has walled up my ways, and I cannot pass. And he has set darkness upon my paths. He has stripped my glory from me and taken the crown from my head. He breaks me down on every side, and I'm gone. He has uprooted my hope like a tree. He has kindled his wrath against me and counts me as his adversary. His troops come on together. They have thrown up siege works against me and encamp around my tent. He has put my family far from me, and my acquaintances are wholly estranged from me. My relatives and my close friends have failed me. The guests of my house have forgotten me. My servant girls count me as a stranger. I've become an alien in their eyes. I call to my servant, but he gives me no answer. I must myself plead with him. My breath is repulsive to my wife. I'm loathsome to my own family. Even young children despise me. When I rise, they talk against me. All my intimate friends abhor me, and those whom I love have turned against me. My bones cling to my skin and to my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. Have pity on me. Have pity on me, O you, my friends, for the hand of Elohim has touched me. Why do you, like Elohim, pursue me, never satisfied with my flesh? Oh, that my words were written down. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and with lead they were engraved on a rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, then in my flesh I shall see Elohim, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. My heart faints within me. If you say, how we will persecute him, and the root of the matter is found in him, be afraid of the sword, for wrath brings the punishment of the sword, so that you may know there is a judgment. Chapter 20. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered, pay attention. My thoughts urge me to answer because of the agitation within me. I hear censure that insults me, and a spirit beyond my understanding answers me. Do you not know this from of old, ever since mortals were placed on earth, that the exulting of the wicked is short, and the joy of the unrighteous is but for a moment? Even though they mount up high as the heavens and their head reaches to the clouds, they'll perish forever like their own dung. Those who have seen them will say, where are they? They'll fly away like a dream and not be found. They'll be chased away like a vision of the night. The eye that saw them will see them no more, nor will their place behold them any longer. Their children will seek the favor of the poor, and their hands will give back their wealth. Their bodies, once full of youth, will lie down in the dust with them. Though wickedness is sweet in their mouth, though they hide it under their tongues, though they are loath to let it go and hold it in their mouths, yet their food is turned in their stomachs. It is the venom of asps within them. They swallow down riches and vomit them up again. Elohim cast them out of their bellies. They will suck the poison of asps. The tongue of a viper will kill them. They will not look on the rivers, the streams flowing with honey and curds. They'll give back the fruit of their toil and will not swallow it down. From the profit of their trading, they will get no enjoyment. But they have crushed and abandoned the poor. They have seized the house that they did not build. They knew no quiet in their bellies. It is their greed. In their greed, they let nothing escape. There was nothing left after they had eaten. Therefore, their prosperity will not endure. In full sufficiency, they will be in distress. All the force of misery will come upon them. To fill their belly to the full, Elohim will send his fierce anger into them and rain it upon them as their food. They will flee from an iron weapon. A bronze arrow will strike them through. It is drawn forth and comes out of their body, and the glittering point comes out of their gall. Terrors come upon them. Utter darkness is laid up for their treasures. A fire fanned by no one will devour them. What is left in their tent will be consumed. The heavens will reveal their iniquity, and the earth will rise up against them. The possessions of their house will be carried away, dragged off in the day of Elohim's wrath. This is the portion of the wicked from Elohim, the heritage decreed for them by Elohim. And that's the first 20 chapters of the book of Job. Heavy stuff, heavy stuff. It's poetry, and it's chock full of all kinds of important information. So let me just, in the remaining few minutes, let me just talk a little bit about the book of Job. So the book of Job, if you're looking at the Tanakh, which is the Hebrew term for the Old Testament scriptures, Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. Torah would be the first 5 books, the 5 books of Moses. Nevi'im are the prophets, which consists of the major prophets and the minor prophets, the 12 minor prophets. And then you have Ketuvim, the writings, which consist of things like Proverbs, Psalms, Job, and others, Song of Songs, etc. So it belongs to the Ketuvim, the writings. And as such, it functions in the role of what's known as wisdom literature. So if you think of something like the book of Proverbs, wisdom literature has a very specific purpose in scripture. Wisdom literature is specifically to teach us wisdom from a biblical perspective, and from a biblical perspective, from the Hebrew perspective, the Hebrew culture. Wisdom is practical. It's not theoretical, right? So if you consider wisdom that you find, for example, among the philosophers of the ancient Greeks and Romans and others, and many cultures has wisdom literature, but the wisdom that is typically found in those cultures typically is more of an abstract, theoretical type of wisdom for wisdom's sake, right? The Greeks referred to it as Sophia, right? It's wisdom that it's important to know, and it teaches you things, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't always translate to a practical day-to-day type of wisdom. But the wisdom of the Hebrews, the concept of wisdom among the Hebrews, is in fact a very practical thing. So you take the Proverbs, for example, and we went over this in very great detail. And if you haven't seen that series, you can start looking at the introduction on the YouTube site. And I explained that in very great detail. Each one of those Proverbs is set as sort of a little compact nugget of wisdom, sort of like something that you keep in your pocket. And then when you need it, you pull it out, you open it up, you expand it, right? It's like putting a few drops of water on it and it expands, and then it helps you to live your life. So, if you want to know how to deal with a business situation that's particularly thorny, you pull that proverb that you have there, And it tells you, okay, a person who's dealing with business shouldn't be doing deceitful things, right? Or there's another one that maybe says, when you consider something, consider all the angles of it and don't just be taken in by the first thing that comes to you. And of course, I'm paraphrasing here. That's kind of how it is. When you need that wisdom, you have it. It's available, and it's a very practical wisdom. It's not just, well, in a theoretical business situation, you might want to consider it. It's this is the way you should live in relationships, in business, etc. So biblical wisdom of chokmah is like that. It's a very down-to-earth, day-to-day oriented type of instruction to help you to make better decisions, usually by some type of example, like a parable, for example, okay, or metaphor or simile or something of that nature, figure of speech. So the book of Job falls into that category of literature. It's wisdom literature in that through this story of Job, and we won't go into today the arguments 2 and 4 as if Job was a real person or if it was just an allegory, etc. To me, quite honestly, it doesn't matter. I happen to believe that there was an actual person named Job, and did things happen exactly this way in this exact order? Right, well, that's debatable. The reason I say that is because the structure is such, the literary structure is such, and I'll show you a little bit of that it's very neat and convenient. And whether it happened exactly in that way with exactly these words, I'm not sure. That's less important to me. It may be more important to you, and we can have that discussion on the side someday. To me, there's so much in scripture, particularly among the wisdom literature, that even if it's pure allegory from my perspective, it's incredibly valuable. It doesn't have to be literal for me to accept it. Well, I don't know if Job really lived. Who cares? The story, the account is meant to teach something very, very important, several things that are very, very important. And the way that the account is written is very conducive to getting that information across. And Yahweh willing, we'll talk much more about that next week when I could do a full-blown study on it. But I do want to just offer a few thoughts to you today. So that's the first thing, that Job is wisdom literature, okay? So it's meant to teach some very valuable lessons and a particular theme or two. So, and by the way, if Job was a real person, he more than likely lived during the time of the patriarchs. And let me see if I can find this. It's been a while, so I might not be able to find. Okay, so if you go to Genesis 46, you always want to look at the scriptures first and foremost as initial evidence. So if you go to Genesis 36 and you start reading about the records of the generations of Esau, when you get down to verse 13, I want to say, let me see. My mind is saying 46 and I'm typing in 36. So let's try that again. 46, 13. All right. So the sons of Issachar, Tola and Puva and Yov and Shimron, right? So when you look at that name Yov, that's the name. So I'm not saying that this Yov is that Job, right? What I am saying is that, and let me just see something here. So if you look, this is the text of Job itself. If you look down the lower left, you see the name Iyov. Okay, number 347, Iyov. And then when you look at Genesis 46:13, you have the name just Yov. It's not Iyov, Yov, but it is etymologically linked. But that you see that plenty of places where you have a name that there's like a full version of the name and there's a shorter version of the name. So, if you went over to, let's say, Psalm 81, it tells you down in verse 5, he established it for a testimony in Joseph. And you look down here and it says Yosef, right, down below. But then you'll see some versions where you have a shorter name for Joseph and a longer name for Joseph, is what I'm trying to show. So anyway, it's irrelevant, except to say that, is this the same person? Who knows, right? But my point is that even if it's not, I'm not saying that Genesis 46:13 is speaking about the same Job. There's no proof of that whatsoever. But the name itself is not common, right? So if he lived, it was more than likely he lived during this time on the basis of the use of that name. I frequently told you that when you have words in the scriptures that appear very few times, pay close attention. There are two types of words you want to pay attention to in either the Hebrew or the Greek. You want to pay attention to words that are used a lot, right? So when you look at Yahweh's name, for example, the Tetragrammaton, it appears in, about 7,000 times in the scriptures. That's significant, right? And you have other words that appear a lot. Those words are significant because they're used all the time. But then you have words on the other end of the spectrum which appear very infrequently, and those you also have to pay attention to because they're rare. So when they're rare, you want to give an extra eye. So Job, that name is very rare. So it is likely that he would have lived during a period of time that was during the patriarchs, which is what that patriarchal narrative is there in Genesis. Okay, but what kind of things are we looking at with the book of Job? Well, and by the way, I'm probably going to repeat some of this next week. That's why I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time of it, because it's too important to just kind of breeze through. But I don't want to give you. I want to set the pace now, and then just go into it deeper next week. So let's get to the elephant in the room, right? When you look at Job, the typical explanation that people have about the existence of the book of Job, not scholars, but not people who deeply study the text, but the average churchgoer, the average person worshiping, whatever, they think that the book of Job is about suffering, right? That it's about looking at the book of Job and learning what it's like to deal with human suffering. Now, here's the idea. If you go into the book of Job when you're having a hard time in life, when life gets difficult, and you want to find out how to act in times of suffering and to draw some lessons about suffering and faith in suffering and how to deal with it, and maybe even find some explanations for suffering and all that, go to the book of Job, and that's what it's there for. So what do? So in times of trouble, and how do I know? Because I've done this, right? Because maybe you've done this. Millions of people over the ages have done this, right? And you go to the book of Job and you start reading it and you get what I gave to you today. So let me ask you a question. Having read to you, and this is a rhetorical question, this answer to yourself, right? Going from what you read just in those 20 chapters, did you find a lot of answers with regard to suffering and how to deal with suffering and why we suffer and everything else? If you did, I need you to give me a call and talk with me, because in over 30 years of studying the Bible, I've not found an acceptable answer in the book of Job about suffering. It ain't there. And let me give you a little preview too. In the next 22 chapters, you ain't going to find it either. By the time you get to the end of the book of Job, I promise you that you will not have an answer about human suffering and why we suffer and what we should do when we're suffering and all that. Oh, so what's the book of Job about? If it's not about suffering. Well, everyone focuses on the suffering for good reason, right? It's the answer. It's the question of what is known in circles, religious circles, as theodicy, right? THEOID, DICY, theodicy, right? The idea of theodicy is why do people suffer unjust suffering, and it's an attempt to vindicate the Almighty as to why He allows suffering and all that. It's the perennial question, right? Why does the Almighty allow unjust suffering, etc.? Well, you're not going to find an answer for that in the book of Job, and that's what people make it about. It's not about that. If anything, what the book of Job is about, it's not even about Job, really. And we'll explore this more next week. So just hang with me, okay? The book of Job is not about. It's not really about Job. It's about Elohim, in my opinion. And it's not about suffering. It's about righteousness. It's about integrity. That may be a very different take from what you used to. And by the way, I'm not just pulling this out of my own head, although I've wrestled with that over the years too. I owed a lot of debt to some guys, and I'll mention it next week. People like John Walton, Tremper Longman III, the guys who wrote How to Read the Bible Book by Book, Gordon Fee and Douglas Stewart, and many others who have similar types of views for helping me to understand these things better. So it's not just things I pulled out of my head. But what I've come to understand, I've developed a better understanding of Ecclesiastes as well. We went through that one time, and if we don't have that out on YouTube, we'll get it out there at some point. wisdom literature, I think, has been very seriously misunderstood, and I think it winds up being a source of great frustration for us, for people, because they're not using the biblical material properly, and they're not looking to it for the right types of things. The book of Job is really answering the question of, in my view, it's the question that you see in the initial encounter between Elohim and Satan. It's answering really two things. It's answering, number one, it's talking about Elohim, like I said, not Job. And it's Elohim's policies, as Tremper Longman and John Walton talk about. His policy of rewarding the righteous with benefits, right? Is that the right thing to do? Is it right for the Almighty to bless the righteous with good things? And the reason that's important to know that is because what happens when you don't have good things, like you see in the book of Job? Then all of a sudden, the Almighty gets accused of all kinds of unfairness and injustice and all those kind of things, right? So, what is the actual attitude that we should have towards righteousness, or as Job puts it, integrity, of keeping our integrity regardless of whether things are going good for us? That's the first thing. The second thing, and by the way, it takes the first half of the book to answer that question definitively. So as you're going to see, by the time you get to chapter 27, which is a little bit more than half of the book, you're going to see that the clear answer for that, I'll give you the answers and we'll go back and unpack it, right? The clear answer for that is that about whether it's possible, I guess that's the actual question, is it possible to keep your integrity or to be a righteous person regardless of how things are going in your life? It's an important question. And the answer is yes, it's possible, but only by trusting in Elohim. And Job himself answers that question, although he's doing it from a position of bitterness, but he's still answering the question. So, we could talk about the so-called contest. It's not a contest, right? It's not like Elohim looks at this and says, from the very beginning, it says, well, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know if Job's going to prove, the adversary right. Whatever. It's not like that. Okay. This is all teaching moment. This is all the Almighty allowing something to happen so that we all as humanity can learn from this thing. Don't think for a second that I don't like the word contest that people use. It's like when they talk about the, Elisha and the priests of Baal, Elijah and the priests of Baal, they say it's a contest on Mount Carmel. The word contest is loaded in our culture to think that there's actually a winner and a loser. There was no contest there, right? And the same thing here with the situation with the adversary and the Almighty. There's no contest there. There's a teaching lesson that's being done there. But the answer is that Job himself proves is that yes, he's not serving the Almighty for the benefits. He's serving him regardless of whether he lives or dies. And you can even hear that in his voice. I tried to be a little bit dramatic with it. I'm not an actor, but I try to be a little bit more dramatic because otherwise it's just kind of sitting there reading the words and you don't know what's going on, right? So, I hope that was helpful to you to kind of see the emotion that's going on here, because he's having, and we'll talk a little bit about structure. We'll talk more about structure next week. I don't have time to go into it today. When you look at the structure of the book, it's essentially three dialogues between Job and his so-called friends, and in which they're all sort of saying the same thing over and over again, as you can see. But notice that as you go on, it gets shorter and shorter. You have three dialogues between Job and his friends, but they're saying the same thing over and over again. And if you notice, with each successive interchange, their part gets smaller and smaller, right? Because essentially they have nothing left to say. They're just saying the same moronic thing over and over again, right? And then you have an intervening chapter, which is chapter 28, which in my view is the centrality. It's a central chapter. If I've often explained to you when you're doing methodical Bible study that you look for a key center. If I was looking for the key center, that's where I'd find it in chapter 28, because chapter 28 answers the second question, or gives evidence to the second proposition, right? And the second proposition has to do with how is the world actually being run? Is justice the foundation of how Yahweh runs the world? right? Because that's what everyone looks to the book of Job for, right? Is there justice? Because if the unrighteous are suffering, then that must mean there's no justice, right? Well, not necessarily. So what is it really? What is the point of the rest of Job once we've determined that righteousness and integrity can be had regardless of what's happening in your life? Well, the second thing is it okay for people to be rewarded? Is it okay for the righteous to be rewarded with injustice and suffering? Well, that would presume, the very question presumes that there is an unwritten rule that says that justice is the foundational way in which Yahweh operates the world. Well, based upon my readings and my, looking at the book of Job, I agree with most of these scholars that justice is not the foundational principle in Yahweh's operating of the world. That may be shocking to you, but it isn't. So if justice is not the operating principle for Yahweh running the world, what is? I'm not saying, by the way, that there's no justice in the world or that Yahweh doesn't do justice. Far from it, right? I'm saying it's not the foundation, it's not the operating principle by which the world is run. What is the operating principle? It's all throughout the wisdom literature, and you're going to kick yourself when you hear what it is. It's all throughout the wisdom literature and indeed throughout the entire scriptures. The foundational operating the operating system of Yahweh in running the world is wisdom. It's not justice. And when you understand that wisdom that's why there's so much in the scriptures and why the whole foundational relationship with Yahweh is based upon wisdom, right? The fear, that's, if anything, Proverbs drives that into you again and again, that the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom, right? So fearing Elohim, you see that in Ecclesiastes too, right? What is the end result of everything with Ecclesiastes? Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. In other words, it's trusting Elohim and his wisdom, even when things don't go wrong, especially when things are going wrong. I want to read this section this is the book on how to read Job by John Walton and Tremper Longman, which has been invaluable to me. I'm going to read this one section here because I think it's incredibly good. And it gives you a good, matter of fact, I'm just going to read you this whole little paragraph here. The purpose of the book. We would identify, and I'm quoting directly from the book, we, the authors, would identify the purpose of the book as how to think well about Elohim when disaster strikes. When life is going wrong, we would like to know how Elohim governs the world. Don't we all want to know that when things are going wrong? In the process, we can discover whether our righteousness, our integrity stands up, which we know is possible through the book of Job. The book of Job is going to make the case that Elohim's justice is not the foundation of how the world operates. We cannot explain all circumstances by investigating them as the result of righteous or wicked behavior. We all know this. We all know that and this is backed up by the New Testament, right? When we're told that the rain, and I'm paraphrasing, that the rain falls on both the good and the wicked, right? So if you're judging the world based on justice, well, how is it just? How is it? How can we accept a world in which the rain falls upon both the wicked and the righteous? It's the wrong type of question. It's gonna fall on both the wicked and the righteous. The book of Job, I'm going back to quoting, we cannot explain all circumstances by investigating them as a result of righteous or wicked behavior. The book of Job turns our attention away from the idea that the world runs by Elohim's justice and offers the alternative that instead of trying to understand everything that happens as a reflection of Elohim's justice, we should learn to trust his wisdom. Spot on. Let me go back to quoting. It is particularly common for readers to feel disappointed with the speeches of Elohim. In other words, the speeches that he gives in the latter chapters, which we'll read next week, which essentially are telling Job, you don't know what you're talking about. I created the world, right? And I know what I'm doing, essentially. But I'll read this. They sound to some readers like deflection. And let's admit it, right? I know that to me, that's what it sounded like. They sound to some readers like deflection, a power play, in which the real issues are set aside while Elohim simply overwhelms and intimidates Job. In fact, it is not uncommon to hear, I love how their honesty. It is not uncommon to hear that the answer in the book of Job is, quote, I am Elohim and you are not, end quote. This generally has an implied compliment, quote, so just shut up, end quote, right? Or, quote, mind your own business, end quote. Or I can do what I want, or you are worthless. A preferable understanding, and this is the key, the heart of it, a preferable understanding would be, quote, I am Elohim, who is supremely wise and powerful, so I want you to trust me even when you don't understand, end quote. I'm going to repeat that again. I am Elohim, who is supremely wise and powerful, so I want you to trust me even when you don't understand, or maybe even especially when you don't understand. Let's talk about that more next week. So Yahweh willing, we'll get to that. So Yahweh willing, next week we'll read the remaining chapters. Sorry, let me just say one more thing. I know, just bear with me. I said that the middle chapter, chapter 28, is the heart of things, because that's the chapter where Yahweh indicates that his wisdom is the only wisdom that ultimately counts. Because what are the guys doing in the three sets of dialogues? Everyone is putting forth their wisdom. Job's three friends and Job himself. And what's happening here is that all of their wisdom is coming short, because ultimately they don't have the correct wisdom to know what's going to happen in the good or the bad. So all of them are deficient in the way that they're presenting so-called wisdom. So they all think that they have wisdom, right? They say it. And they all act as if they want to put down the other one's wisdom. And you can hear that in the inflections, right? They all want to point out, my wisdom is correct and your wisdom is a little bit deficient here. And let me correct you. Thank you very much. And, get you done. No. Ultimately, he always says, my wisdom, where can wisdom be found? In me. And then the remaining chapters, we go from dialogue, which is two parties back and forth, to monologues. So Job, his friends, and then we add another guy who is Elihu, who is a younger guy, right? Who adds another dimension to the argument. We'll talk more about him next week. And again, they're still trying to bring forth their wisdom and is coming short until finally Elohim has the last word. And he comes in and he says, okay, I've heard you all out. Enough's enough. I need to step in here now. And here's the final word on this. And then we see, so chapter 28 is a preview of the final answer in the late chapters in 41, 2, whatever it is, okay? Where Elohim says, you want to find wisdom, you want to know what true wisdom is, none of you have it. Neither the older guys nor the young dude who just came in. I have the wisdom. This is the only wisdom that ultimately counts. You got to trust me. And then it ends with some other narrative as well, okay? So we'll talk more about that next week, Yahweh willing.